I'm Donna Bryan Whitehill, and Bryan is my maiden name. And I got interested in our genealogy. Simple enough. I wanted to know who my fourth great-grandfather was and where he came from. And I wanted to know if I was related to Daniel Boone. He married Rebecca Bryan, and I'm a Bryan. So we were always told we were related to William Jennings Bryan, and I could not prove it. My uncle did a lot of this research in the beginning. He died in like 1980s, and he never actually proved it either. But if we're related to William Jennings Bryan, we know that they go back to the Boones. The Boones and the Bryans intermarried. They were good friends way back in the 1700s and beyond, and with the Lincolns. The Bryans and the Lincolns and the Boones kind of lived together in Virginia now, and some of them in West Virginia. Rebecca met Daniel at a wedding and in South Carolina when they had moved to South Carolina. So that's where it came from. I'm still trying to find that proof. Despite 3 trips back, a lot of the records were destroyed in, they had Indian Wars and Civil Wars, and they had, the Revolution, he was born during that time, and so a lot of records were destroyed and hid or burned in courthouses. So that's how I got started. But this today is about Sarah Plain and Tall. And my first thing I would like to say is this is my history that I dug up, and my version, it's historic fiction. I actually have talked to Patricia MacLachlan that wrote the books. It was my cousin. And even she said, this is historic fiction. So that means it's based on stories we've heard. We've never lived that era. We don't know exactly what they did or said. Some of it is what we know of it, and you make up the difference. So having said that, some of this will come up more as I talk about the historic fiction part of the story. Some of it's from Lincoln County, where this took place in Kansas, and it's a lot of history in Lincoln County, Kansas. So some of the mistakes if I make are because my memory, I don't do this often anymore, and I may not remember it exactly the way I used to, but we will go through this. And I do PowerPoint, and I do Kansas Days for school. This is my 19th year to substitute teach, pre-K through 12, starting in 2006. And I love to do that. I don't want to teach full-time, so it's the best way to be around the kids and to teach them. And so I put this together for what we call Kansas Days. And I would do this usually for 2nd or 3rd grade is what the classes. Once in a while, I'll be a little older. So that's where this all started. I'll just go through this because a lot of this is Kansas history, and it'll tie in and eventually here to Sarah Plain and Tall. Every picture you will see in my presentation are from my family. I inherited the pictures in 2004, sorry. I took 2 years sabbatical to scan every picture my parents owned. So, some of these pictures I didn't know who they were, and I had to really work at that. And I still don't know all of them, but the ones that are on here, I thought were the most interesting. So it starts, we were in Augusta down here, and I would tell the kids that they took the wagon all the way to Lincoln County through through Wichita, through Salina. Lincoln County is about 30 miles west and north of Salina, Kansas. Alright, so that's my map there. Whoops. Okay, I don't know Ray Miller. I just know he was married to one of my relatives. But this was for the kids to ride the wagon. I don't know where the picture was taken. These fences are in Virginia. So they're Revolutionary 1700s fences, but it could also be right around here, Kansas, before all the trees and all the other stuff. So I really don't know where the picture's from. This is Martha Jane Mason Rogers. Martha Jane Mason was in Virginia. They're 50 miles west of Mason University, but I have not proved that we are from Mason University. But my great-grandfather was George Mason, by the way. So anyway, we like that because of the sod house in the background, and this is how they lived. And again, this looks like Kansas. They kind of lived in western Kansas there for a while, so very likely that's where it was. And there they are again. So I like to tell my kids that if you'll see them all out here, and the other people too, they gather their horses, their chickens, their dogs. Sometimes you'll see pictures, if you ever see a picture with a rabbit or their guns, they gather all that stuff up when the photographer shows up. And they made sure they were wearing matching dresses, and they stand there and get their pictures. They're so proud of everything that they do. So, and thus I know it's a family picture because it was in our family album. I don't know where it is. I don't know who took it, but I love this picture. It's how? I don't know how they got up there. Now, I think some people know how that's done, but I don't know. I don't know the two young boys in front, but it's a cool picture, and I wouldn't want to find that needle in that haystack. Okay, so this is Lincoln, Kansas in 1909, and that's what it looked like then. My family history goes back to around 1878 or beyond. A few years past the last Indian Wars in Kansas. And so there's Lincoln, Kansas. And we'll have some more pictures of that pretty soon. So this is, again, the downtown. My mom was born and raised there. Her mom was born and raised there. And her grandparents were born and raised there. And same with my father's side. Same thing. All the way back to the great-grandparents. And my sister and I took pictures in the same spot and thought that was pretty cool, but her picture turned out a little better, so we used hers. This is the map that came in the book of Lincoln County. I don't have it out here, but there's a cool book of Lincoln, that county in Kansas. And I did highlight us a little bit. Coronado came through. I couldn't even remember all these names. Several explorers came through. Coronado goes back home and says, don't move there. It's uninhabited. She had a sick husband, and she's since passed and never did make it here. Because I have pictures of her great-great-grandmother's wedding and headstone. She's buried in the Lincoln Cemetery, and it would have been very nice for her to have been able to visit. I do have. So this is Shane, is my grandson. Mm-hmm. I did this presentation for him when he was in Clarksville, Arkansas, and he was in the 2nd grade. And that's why I wanted those little kids to maybe be able to connect how Shane was a part of this story. And so I went from Emma to my grandfather John, my dad Donald, me, his mother, and then himself. And then same with Ida. Ida, she was Ida Moss. Peter, she was married to Peter. The reason why I hesitated before, there were two sisters that married Moss. If they were cousins or brothers, but so I wasn't remembering which one married which Moss. And then Madonna Moss Pritzken was Patricia's mother, and Patricia MacLachlan, who wrote the stories. All right, so this is the McReynolds family in June 22nd, 1916. I believe my grandma Rachel passed away a couple years before that. And if you want to know how these stories came about, these were the main three books. I think there were more. Sarah Plain Tall was the first. I believe Caleb's story was second. This was a fairly new one. Caleb's story was about, and if you know the story, he ordered the mail order bride to take care of the two children at home because the mother died. Well, the second book is about their loss of the mother, but also the father abandoned them. This is Caleb's story is about an abandonment. The story I got from my family, and I have no proof of it. A little bit of proof. I have a little bit of proof, but the rest is my thoughts on this. If you go back to my picture, right here, Ida, Cora. Cora had two children, and then she had baby twins. And I know that's true because I have the proof. One twin died at birth, one survived. That left three children, an infant and the two older. She died 3 months later from the complications from childbirth. Will you not think about that happening 3 months later from childbirth? You'd think that would be immediate. Not so much. And their father, her husband, is the one that abandoned the three children. So family history, they were passed around from family to family. I believe he must have ended up with them, ordered a mail order bride to help with them. So it's not like he married the mail order bride, but they weren't his children. They were grandchildren. That's what I believe. Because, look, they're all there. They did not need a mail order bride for these adult children. So it had to be the grandchildren. The truth is, he really did marry, order the mail order bride. And there is proof of that. And she is right here in the picture after Rachel died. This is my Lewis Clark Bryan right here, John, and her name was Ella Kilgore. She came from Maine, and she's not a young person either. Not a young person, because this was 2 years after. So she did it's crazy to think that they would, why would you want to do that at this age when you live in Maine? Why? She was just ready for an adventure, I guess. So what I did, I just took this and I glued this up so you could get a better picture of John McReynolds and Ella Kilgore. The other people in here are all family members. I don't recognize children. Some of these maybe, but I do recognize my great-grandfather. I just blew that up for the kids, a little bit of pictures. This is Ida, and I see I have Daniel on there now. So I have this messed up, don't I? But anyway, this is of the wedding picture and this is Patricia MacLachlan, but I just kind of did that for the kids to go through the chain of events. And then this was Emma's, my family. He married Harley Bryan, which was Louis and Emma's child, my parents, and then my husband and I. And then Shane, his family, and little Shane, to see how that goes down, you know. And I just blew that up. So these are some other books that since then that kind of go along with the same story. That I don't have all those books, but she wrote some more later in life. Patricia has passed away now, by the way, a few years back, and so she's not there. Her daughter writes, though. You can look up and read some of her daughter's stories. And I think the daughter does children's books. I do a whole presentation, since I'm doing this and I'm a teacher, about teaching the kids to write their stories down. So I start with my son Mark. He wrote his first book at 14 years old. He was into things like Hobbit and things like that. So this is a magical story. I haven't read it in a long time. It's about, I know there was a ring, I think made out of a tree, wood ring, and it did magic things. And that's the most I remember about this. So this story, this book, was written by him. It's right here. This is the original copy. And I take it to them to show them. Just write. Just do it. I like to do this because this one has never been edited properly and it's never been published. It's never been made a book. This is it. Other than whatever he stuck online, that's it. This is gone, it's gone. Okay? And and this is my mother, and Myrtle was her mother. And she married into the Bryan side, who Harley's son was my dad. And so there she is, and this is her book. So she had a story to tell because of her existence. And her mother was like 15 when she got pregnant, and didn't even know how she got pregnant. And this is my mother's own words. And I'm sorry, I have a copy, I think, of her book. But she wrote hers at 68 years old. And she got married at 17, and they did not allow her to finish her senior year because she is married now. She wasn't pregnant, she was married. But you cannot go to school married in 1946 or 47. So she didn't finish school. So her book is page after page after page, not a single paragraph in any of it. Misspelled words. It was a chore. My daughter took it, edited it for her, and my son, he's very good at, both of them are very good at those things. So she helped because she was closer. My son, first major was going to be English, and so, like I said, he already wrote his own book. So he and them helped, and they got it done. They made the paragraphs, they put the pictures in it, and they went and daughter got it edited and made a book out of it. And I don't have a copy here, but I have some. So there's her book, 68. Didn't know how to do that. But she got it edited and published. Is not famous, is not popular, it's in some libraries. You can go get it in probably the Pratt Library has it, in the Lincoln Library, and they the Manhattan Library might have it, because she lived in Manhattan at the time. She read that. And so just write it. You don't have to know anything. Just write your thoughts down and let somebody more experienced help you finish it. And then this book. I like to do this. This book I gave my son for a Christmas present in a box. So you can write your own story. And this was, he's called Real Cats, Not Real Story by Newbery Whitehill. And he made it all up. He was, I don't know, how old was he? 12, published in 2012. I don't know. But this one is not only wrote by him, he did all the imaging, and he published it online because it's in a kit. So he's his own author. He did it all. And he made a book. It was about his cat that died. His cat dragon that died. So you don't have to be just any age. Patricia was like 38 when she wrote her first book. So you can be any age. You can do it any way you want. You can get someone to help you or not. And there you are. So that's a good lesson to know. And this was my grandson. There, he liked to draw. I'm not sure what I got there. Oh, got back to when I went to do my grandson's presentation in Clarksville, Arkansas. So I'm coming home and I'm doing some research, and what do I find online? I find Civil War letters that are in the library of all places, Clarksville, Arkansas, where they lived. So you can bet the next time I went and looked at those letters. And I got permission to copy them because it's my family. And these are from some of the brothers. This is from, it's John McReynolds' brothers, and maybe a cousin, when they lived in Iowa. And it's a letter they wrote back to home to John McReynolds that we're talking about here, the mail order bride husband. They wrote back to his father. And they were on the river doing, they guarded the river. And it talks about different things and prices and all, it's so cool. So I took copies of that and edited it myself. I tried to write it so I could read it better. And so you get started on this, you don't know what you're going to find. And so I very much value and treasure these letters to they were worried that their father would sell their land before they got home, and the one that wrote that says, I want that land, please don't do that before I can get out of this war. So yeah, so this is just an interesting thing about how you don't know what you're going to come up with. Pretty cool. And then I take them back home from there.
Wow.
So thanks for asking my story.
Of course. Yeah.